Good morning. It is the start of a brand new week. It is Monday here in Sweden. The sun is sort of out, so I'm very chuffed with that. I was a busy boy over the weekend. I have put Dynamat Extreme over the inside of the engine covers and in a few places in the truck so far. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Dynamat Extreme, it is a butol-based sound deadener with an aluminium thin sheet over the top, and you can mold it to kind of any surface that you need to. You can also cut it. It works incredibly well for cutting out vibration and higher frequency noise, so it's really good on sheet metal, which this truck is obviously entirely sheet metal aluminium. Now I'll show you just on the doors. I've just done one door here. I've done on the inside as well, but I've put the cover back on. And I want to show you the sound difference that just one layer of Dynamat Extreme makes. So this is the original door. So listen to this, hopefully you can tell the difference. Verse. So sheet metal, when it's in a format like this, kind of resonates like a drum skin. So any vibrations on the road noise, anything like that will be really loud and frustrating and basically hard for us to hear ourselves talk. So we did a similar sound deadening process in Bowser and it made a tremendous difference. So at the moment, this Dynamat Extreme, this doesn't really cut out heat. This is more based on sound. So I thought it was important to put it on the rear because that's where we'll get a lot of sound coming in. And this is where the wheel wells are. So that's already a little bit better just from putting that one layer, but I will cover the entire wheel well because it's so thin through here. It's just going to make a tremendous amount of noise. Then I will likely put it through the floor in the passenger area for Oakley. I've already done his side here. And I will most likely put it through the ceiling and definitely over the floor and around the engine here as well. Because our big amount of noise is coming right from the center of the vehicle. So I'm never going to be able to make this truck silent, but I will definitely be able to make a really big improvement. So I'm going to carry on with that this morning. Ange and Oaks come back tomorrow, so I'm very excited about that. And hopefully at the same time, 2 booster repair kits will arrive from Tatanka so I can crack into that. And the brake saga will begin anew. And just quickly, while I still have your attention, please let me know what you think I should replace this wooden paneling with. I don't hate it, it's just some of them are really old and manky, like this one for instance has a hole in it, that one goes there. I definitely want to replace them with something, but I don't want to spend a ton of money on it. Alright, so I just pulled out the rear heater unit, which would have been used to heat up the rear of the cabin for the troops. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of guessing what some of this does. So this is basically a little mini radiator. So as the truck warms up, it's firing coolant through one of these hoses, goes through the radiator and out the end. So this would always have hot fluid in the radiator, and then from the cabin the driver would engage a fan in here. I don't know if you can tell in there, there's a fan. And that would blow the hot air. So kind of a little bit similar to what we've got going on in Bowser with our hot water system. I've got that plumbed into the coolant. So as the engine warms up, it heats up the water through a heat exchanger, and that gives us free hot water. This in turn gives free hot air, I guess. There's a little tap here, which is handy. So for now that is switched off. I will keep an eye on that, but I don't believe it's a loop. So I'm pretty sure I can shut that off with no harm to the engine. And of course the hot coolant runs out the back of the exhaust side of the engine. And then once it goes through that little mini radiator, it comes out and goes down through here and ends up at these two plugs. And those two plugs, as just a guess as well, I'm pretty sure what happens is a vehicle can turn up here, or like a little unit on like a trailer or some form of tray. You can plug it into those two taps and it'll be some sort of generator or heater or something like that, and that will reverse the flow, basically heat the coolant up in the circuit for really cold starts. And that'll make it much easier for the engine to crank over when it's necessary. So maybe if they're sitting in convoy but the trucks are turned off, maybe that's how they would keep it warm. Not too sure. Anyway, I have removed that heater assembly because A, it takes up way too much space for what it is. B, that's only hot here when the engine is on or has been running. And I would say C, it also stays quite hot because of that coolant. So I don't want any of that radiating heat. So we will be replacing that with the diesel heater, of course, so that that's on demand and we can run that whenever we want. And I wanted to remove that today so that I've got access to the floor. So I can make sure there's no rust, I can touch up paint any areas that are necessary, and then more importantly, I can start putting the Dynamat down. So that was the intention of that. So time for me to start pulling this cab apart, I think. I could definitely run some Dynamat Extreme down in here. This is the old like rubber. So I can, that's straight to the wheel well, so that definitely needs some sound deadening. That rubber isn't cutting it. That's also gonna get a treatment as well. All right, I better clean this up. Okay, so I've pulled out the, I think it's called jute. It's like a fibrous material, so that's the extent of the sound deadening on the firewall there. So that will be being replaced for sure. This will be being removed, that vinyl. Not too sure what we'll put in here, maybe carpet like we did with Bowser, over the top of the Dynamat stuff. So that's come out, but while I was doing that, we had an order from Tatanka. So these are the Lockheed seal repair kits for the original brake boosters. Now Lockheed is an English brand, so these are made in England and they're very expensive to buy new. So yeah, it seems like the right thing to do. I will rebuild these, so I'll spend the next few hours having a crack at this and then cleaning it up. I've begun to clean it a bit because it's disgusting, as you can see. And I don't want to be putting disgusting, filthy things back into the truck because that just seems very counterproductive. So I'll have a crack at doing one on my own and then I'll show you a little bit doing the second one. I'm sure it won't be the most interesting job, but hopefully it's relatively straightforward. And then I don't think today I want to have a crack at putting them back in. I'm just gonna put that off maybe until tomorrow. Okay, one freshly rebuilt booster. One to go. Okay, so that was actually pretty simple. So maybe it took me 45 minutes to an hour. Big thank you to Red Toaster C304 TGB on YouTube. He very recently just did a rebuild and filmed the entire thing, a two-part video. And then he messaged on the forum when I was saying I was having brake troubles, saying he had done a basically a really in-depth overview of rebuilding these boosters. So big thank you to him, that saved me a lot of time. So I won't film much of this at all. I might just chuck a time lapse on, and here's some of the things I've pulled out that won't be going back into that one. Nothing looked exceptionally bad, to be honest. The kit that we got from Tatanka, that's a Lockheed kit, an official one, which is really good. So we're putting official parts back into it. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is the gasket that goes here and another little rubber piece here and a replacement spring. Because I could foresee that, because it's so old, I could foresee that potentially having some issues. So maybe that's a different kit that I'd have to buy elsewhere. But other than that, everything looks really good. And I've replaced the paper gaskets, cleaned it up a little bit. I'm not going to paint it. To be honest, hoping I never have to look at these things ever again once I'm done. For anyone interested, they're obviously not a TGB part. They were originally out of a Morris and the earlier Jaguars. So obviously being British built, and they work really well in the TGB. Apparently the truck stops, like it almost nosedives, it stops so quickly when everything's working. So fingers crossed, I'm going to be there very soon. Second one complete, just in time to head to the train station and pick up Ange and Oaks. So you've probably ascertained already, but this is the base for the machine gun mount. So I kind of had access to see how it could be removed once I took the ceiling off inside, and yeah, pretty easy. As cool as it is to have a machine gun base mount here, we'll probably put in a roof rack on this cab part with some rollover protection. So this would need to go at some point anyway. So may as well remove it now, make sure there's no rust, which it doesn't look like there is. And I can bog over these holes so that I know that they're completely water sealed, completely watertight. I can block them from both sides just to be doubly sure. So there's one bolt coming in, the ceiling over this way on the front, and then just 4 here. So it was nice and easy to remove. And then it looked like they had sealed it as well to stop water ingress. Everything that I see has been so well designed and thought through, which is good. Like there's sound, it's like it's more than what the Unimog had in that respect. It feels like, yeah, more of a design process is going into this. Hello.
Hello.
Aha. The team is here.
Hello, we're back. We're still here.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Oakley.
Oaks looks confused.
Weird.
Hey Oaks.
But you'll be back. Not too sure if Chris mentioned, but that was actually the longest we've been apart since we've been together. Actually not, maybe since we've been traveling. So it's 5 nights, the longest in the last 4 years.
You look nervous. You're shy now.
So, better day today?
Yeah, better day than yesterday. Yesterday, Angela had a full-blown meltdown.
Yeah.
So, long story short, we haven't heard about my visa. My 3-month just normal tourist visa expires next month. We've applied for a 6-month tourist visa extension, but we just haven't heard anything. So if that falls through, I have to like vacate and flee back to Australia.
Yeah, not too sure yet. I'm looking at option in France, but then in France, I'm not too sure where we do the build. So if anyone in France has a garage, please let me know, because as a plan B or C, we might need to go to France. Yeah, it's an element of stress that is added to the build that you are not aware of. And yeah, obviously it's in the back of our mind. We're trying to think of the worst case scenario just in case, but still staying hopeful. There's no reason the visa would be declined, but you never know.
Well, Sweden seems to be great at
we're not having much luck so far.
Difficult when it comes to getting numbers.
Yeah, we shall see. So yeah, wish us luck. We'll keep you updated. But yeah, that's
that's stressful. But anyway, yeah. So it's good to start pulling this girl apart some more.
You've got something on your chin, by the way.
I guess I'm going to mention. What is it?
It's like.
What is it? Let's get it off. Oh, it's from inside the ceiling. But it could have been worse. Okay, so I have been looking at the base of Ange's seat. So this used to slide into here. That was how it was adjusted. Because our fancy seats have kind of normal mounting rails, this kind of type here. And of course, no surprises, the holes do not line up even close. So these are the original mounting holes. My thoughts are I'll try and utilize the original mounting holes and the original chair base as much as I can. So at least I can use these parts here that kind of come up and go over these ribs. These are like strengthening ribs for the wheel well. So I can use these strips here, and then I can remove these, cut these out just with the grinder. I can cut the welds out, pull those angles off, and put my own like thicker, stronger 4mm angles on. Probably 40 mil wide by 20 mil high by 4mm thick is what I'm thinking. Those in here, and then that will be like kind of like that, I guess. And it'll be really strong. And then I'll also put some steel underneath this because there's a gap here, and then I can bolt that angle and weld it. So I can weld it to this and bolt it to this. And then that should be way stronger than the original, way stronger, and that's the go. So stronger seat base, and then I can whip out those beautiful Schillman seats, which are still in their packaging, but I've like been peeking a few times. The other thing we noticed with Bowser is these old military vehicles have very limited headroom. I don't know why they were designed like that. I guess just to keep this thing low. So Bowser was the same. So when we put aftermarket seats in, I became quite a bit higher than the original seats. So I really want to be careful about putting a bunch of sound deadening underneath this base and lifting it up unnecessarily. So I remember with Bowser we had to cut around it, and it made it a little bit more tricky, but at least it didn't give me even more added height for no reason. This way I think I can keep it nice and low, and at some point I'll grab one of those Schillmans out, I'll plonk it here, and I'll see kind of what we're dealing with. That's one of the big reasons I wanted to remove this too, because it had a bunch of quite nice insulation actually, and it's all bagged up. Back home in New Zealand we call this stuff pink bats. Obviously it's pink and it's usually like a fiberglass. I don't know if this is the same stuff, but it's probably similar. And then you had the ceiling, but over the years it's warped and it was sitting quite a bit lower. I could tell that when I pushed it up there was more headroom there, so that won't be going back in for that very reason. It's too warped now and I need to maximize this. So I've been thinking, you know, what do I put here? I'll definitely do sound deadening, but what do I put as a finished product over that? maybe just a big old slab of plywood. If you are Swedish, especially if you're around in the Malmo area, can you please let me know of somewhere where I can get a high quality plywood? I've noticed Bauhaus doesn't really seem to have much for some reason.
Good morning. Chris is at the gym, so I thought I was going to the workshop for Oakley to play in his little playpen before his nap. But because he sees me with the computer and talking to the camera, he doesn't want to play, he just wants to see where the action is at. So that's alright. You will be my little editing assistant, yeah? Touching all the keyboards. So I thought I would share a little bit more about the editing process that I'm doing behind the scene, because a lot of people ask me and they don't really know how much time it takes. It is quite time consuming. So the first thing that I do usually with the footage, I put it all on my computer obviously, and then I put it in our editing software, which is Adobe Premiere Pro. So this is pretty easy at the moment. Oh my gosh, what is he doing? Because we only have one camera we're filming with, was when we travel. We've got as well a nice Sony camera and our drone. But this part is easy. Once I've got all the clips in order in our software, I usually go through it. And at the moment, Chris, as you can imagine, talks a lot and there's a lot to tell about. So I got roughly 2 hours of footage to go through per episode at the moment. So the first thing I do is I watch the entire thing, cut what I think is superfluous, maybe cut the although Chris is really good at talking, so he doesn't have much like me. And that's the first stage. So yeah, that takes a decent 2 to 3 hours to go through that first stage. And then the second stage is I go through again the entire project, but this time I'm gonna edit with music, do more cuts if need be, because we're trying to get the episode under 1 hour at the moment, which is crazy. We never thought we would have such long episodes, but it is what it is. We've got a lot. And I don't want to cut too much to the point where the story is impacted or I'm cutting too much of what Chris is doing. So yeah, under an hour, hopefully you don't mind. I know some people said they would like it a bit shorter. At the moment, it is not possible, unfortunately. So hopefully you stick with us, otherwise you can just leave it in the background and just watch what is of your interest. So yeah, that second stage, put the music, edit a little bit as well the colors, so change a little bit, especially the brightness. Unfortunately in this workshop it is a little bit dark, so sometimes I have to play a little bit with the exposure, the shadows on the project. So that is the second step. And then the third step is watching the entire video again to make sure that everything is good. So I'm quite perfectionist with that. So yeah, all up, I'll say it takes a decent 8 to 10 hours to edit one episode. So it is quite time consuming, but I'm enjoying it. And with Oakley, obviously, I can't just do it in one go. So I do it like during his nap or like at nighttime. So yeah, it is a little bit throughout the week, and that's good that we've got some time in advance because... You have something to say? During the Unimog build, I was literally editing the night before it was releasing on YouTube, and that was way too stressful. Yeah, so if you have any questions about the editing or YouTube, how it works, please let me know in the comments. YouTube is a full-time job, so this is how we make our main income. So when you watch the ad that you can see on the screen, the more ads you watch, the more money we receive from YouTube. Bear in mind that YouTube takes 45% cut on the ads revenue, so us as creators, we don't get the full amount, and yeah, they take a huge cut. It's part of the cons of the platform, but yeah, we're still lucky to be able to make a living out of it.
Okay, on to the very end of week 3, still working on the brakes, which I'm sure you guys are so sick of hearing about. You can imagine how sick about it I am. So yesterday, Ange and I replaced all of the cylinders, so all of them. So I got rid of those Chinese Brit-apart ones and put in a higher quality one from Tatanka. All of them were fine apart from this one here. Of course, with our luck with the brakes, one of the cylinders leaked, even though you could see it had been tested mark on the back of this new cylinder. So, but yeah, the cylinder hadn't been honed properly, or the seal wasn't quite right. But anyway, I've got to wait. So where is that? This is it here. Now the other thing that I've changed, which I've learnt since beginning the saga, is I had put 1 1/4 inch cylinders on the rear. This was because it was recommended to me to get them. So this is them here. But actually I've come to find out that the 6x6 is meant to have 1-inch cylinders on the rear. So they have a slightly thinner bore. So I thought, oh, maybe that could be causing an issue as well. Maybe there's not enough force to press those pistons out. Anyway, I did that, more money and time. And then yesterday bled the brakes for maybe 4 hours and got nowhere. So good time. So now I've decided, especially after speaking to my very good friend Darren, he is the engineer in South Australia who made Oakley's middle seat in Bowser, and who had us there for a while as we painted the cabin on Bowser, the habitat box. So absolute legend. Talked to him this morning. He gave me a bit of a pep talk. And he said, look, just start isolating the system. There's an issue here. It's not necessarily an air issue. There is some sort of problem going on, and there's just too much going on in the system for me to be able to ascertain where the issue is. So start locking parts of the system off. Start from the front. So start at the master cylinder and start working your way back. So I'm doing that now. So what I've actually done is from the master cylinder comes down, the two, one from each reservoir. The old line comes down, not new line, old line, down and connects with this valve here. So this valve sits up on the left inside chassis rail, and basically the master cylinder, each line goes in here from the two circuits, and I think it's a secondary exits from here and primary exits from here. I have now closed those two off with some plugs, pushed the brake pedal, and the cylinders, each cylinder does something a bit different and fully firm pedal. So I know there's no issue with the master cylinder. I think that means my issue is further along. Now this normally has a sensor that screws up in here with a cable running from it, and that tells a discrepancy of hydraulic pressure between the two circuits. So for instance, if you have a brake leak, it'll move a piston in here, and that will then send a warning light on the dash to say, hey, you've got a change in hydraulic pressure, go check what's going on. And lo and behold, you may have lost an entire brake circuit. So it's like a very old school safety measure. But judging by the bottom of it, this is where the plugs were, it's pretty gnarly looking. It's pretty darn disgusting. So I'm going to try and open it up and clean it out. Now these are meant to be a piston that moves in here, but I've just got no movement at all. So I need to figure out a way to get this thing unjammed and moving again, in case, probably isn't, but in case it's causing me some form of an issue. Probably isn't, but worth a shot anyway, right? Otherwise, I'm going to put it back in, and today I'll go from the boosters and see if I can get something going on from that part of the circuit. Okay, I've cleaned this valve up completely, so at least we'll be able to rule this out as being an issue. These are the two plungers that sit inside, and the springs on each end. So those cylinders are in here, like so. And then this is the sensor I was telling you about, that screws up into the bottom. So now, yeah, time to work down towards the boosters. I'll cut one off at a time and just see what's going on. Hey guys, welcome to the start of a brand new week. So the weekend was busy. Saturday was bleeding all the brakes and it basically not working for me at all. So I was very dejected by the end of Saturday evening. And then Sunday was what I showed you with the valve that I was cleaning up here. What I did was, after that valve was cleaned, that got put in, and then I started plugging ports. I'll show you soon under there, but I'll talk to you first here. So I isolated the master cylinder first, so that it was basically deadheaded. It couldn't go anywhere. Pedal, perfect. No air out of the master. So that was great. So I know the brand new master cylinder is fine. Then I isolated the primary booster. Primary booster functioned really well. Then I isolated the secondary booster, and that functioned really well. So those were the three components that were a real pain in the butt, so I did not want to be dealing with those anymore. Then I isolated the primary circuit front left cylinder. Functioned well, got a ton of air out of it by bleeding it with the truck on. Actually, I was shocked by the amount of air I needed to clear out of that before I got solid pedal. Got solid pedal, moved on to the front right. That worked really well. Then I isolated the secondary circuit, front left cylinder and front right cylinder. By the end of the day yesterday, I have fully working master, boosters and front brakes. So very, very excited. Now I'm just waiting to get that faulty cylinder replaced by Tatanka. So then I've just got 4 more to work on. So I'm over halfway really when I include the master and the boosters. And this will tell me whether there is an issue in the rear. So if this ends up working, which I think it is, that'll be my big advice, will be break the system down into its smaller components, and that's the best way to bleed this thing. Now let me come underneath the truck with you and I'll show you kind of the spaghetti's breakfast that we're dealing with. Okay, now we are under the chassis and this is the left chassis rail. So let's pop you up here. So now you can see maybe that I've labeled them. So we have got, it's all run off. Anyway, we've got primary circuit, secondary circuit, secondary circuit, primary circuit. I'd label that, I'll need to label those even better. So that basically comes down from the master here and then it starts distributing it along the network. And you'll see I've run new cables, new hydraulic links for those 2 boosters up there. So that is in fact different from factory, but it's made it much more easy for me to diagnose leaks and for me to actually access these. So I feel like this is how it should have been from factory. And I now no longer have these hydraulic lines here on the front of that chassis member. So in effect, I think they're actually more protected for off-roading. So that would be something I would suggest if anyone ends up rebuilding their TGB in a similar fashion, would be, yeah, actually move those brake lines onto this side. It makes it much easier. So now I basically need to plug in these 2 dirty ones. So we've got one here and one up here, and that will then distribute the brake fluid down to the rear brake. So those are the only copper nickel lines that I haven't replaced. So yeah, there's a possibility there's an issue going on with those. I will not replace those yet because I just don't really have the access in the chassis unless I absolutely have to do this. So yeah, that is great news. Okay, so in here, I've already shown you, I've put Dynamat down in a lot of places. I just need to put another piece here, of course. This vinyl is ready to be pulled up once I remove this seat, because that actually bolts down over the vinyl. So vinyl's ready to go, which is great. I've started working on the ceiling. So Dynamat up here as well. So the exciting news is I have worked out what I'm going to do with the seat base for our beautiful Schillman seats. I kind of did a test fit with Ange. I put them in. I didn't film it because I want to wait until the truck's registered when I can actually properly start pulling these seats apart, weld them up. Put the Schillman seat in here and got Ange to jump in, and she is comfortable, but her knees were up very close here. There is like a rubberized crash pad that's normally part of the console on this side and the driver's side. I've removed those. If those had been on, I think Ange's knees would have been touching for sure, which is definitely not ideal. And one of the main culprits was the belt rail, which was normally bolted down here. I unbolted it for the test fit. It retracted up here and now it doesn't want to retract, but we'll see if I can sort that out. That enabled me to push the seat back quite a bit more, which made it heaps of room for Ange, and then I sat in as well, and I've actually got the space. I don't think I'll be putting the crash mats back here. Not too sure if I'll be able to put anything there, unfortunately. So it's just, yeah, it blocks a lot of the room. So the seat fits beautifully, and I have head clearance, and that was my big concern. I'm like really touch and go on the Unimog. I could not be any higher on my seat base. So I know when I'm constructing the seat base for here, I need to keep it really low, which I think I can do and still have it safer than the original seat. So we're not sure whether we will cover all along here. In Bowser, our Unimog, we put a whole bunch of sound deadening, like 3 stages of sound deadening, and then a piece of, I think it was 12 mil ply, marine ply with carpet over the top. The only issue with that is that's bringing your headroom down. It's eliminating headroom. So here we may not do that because there's just not a ton of space. So as you can see, there's this clearance here. My head still clears here quite fine, but I wouldn't want to make it too much lower. So Ange and I need to think about what we can do here, whether we have the metal exposed, which we don't mind at all because it's a bit of a utilitarian look. And I quite like the roof in this. It's nice and square. It's been well painted. As long as there's sound deadening in between, maybe we can put some felt and little squares here and it'll be really nice. So that's really good news because I was stressing a bit about not being able to sit properly. It's going to be tight, but it's definitely going to be so much better than the original seats, I can tell you that much. So I'm very excited to install that, but of course I can't do that until the car is registered. The big saga continues. And with the seatbelt, by bringing that up, I've actually found some seatbelts online. They're a very reputable brand here in Europe, and they have the E-Class rating, which means that they're fully legal. That actually brings the belt reel up to here, up to the shoulder point, and eliminates this bolt altogether. So it's still a 3-point harness and still fully certified, but it's just a little bit of a different style. So belt reel up there, and then it will still connect down here, and obviously your buckle here. And that's enabling me to push that seat back. Now the only other thing that's eliminating seat travel is this part of like the bulkhead here. And to be honest, once the B30 is removed, maybe I would be able to start shaving into it. In fact, I might have to for a turbo. So I need to find out if I need to cut this, because I'd hate to do a really nice job of sound deadening and stuff in here. I have to then cut into it and ruin it. So yeah, not interested in that. And she came up with the awesome idea that when the seat is here, there's actually a lot of room in the rear. So I think I'll do an overhead console, a wooden overhead console, maybe carpeted, something like that. Give us some storage, I don't know, maybe some speakers, electronics. I can run electrical cable quite easily down into the dash from here without it looking really naff. So that's exciting. So I probably won't do too much to this area here yet. I'll maybe put a bit of sound deadening in and then just leave it for now. But that'll be cool because having an overhead console here sort of, I find, eliminates vision and brings the space down, whereas if it's behind our heads, that works really well. So exciting stuff with that. I cannot wait to build those seat bases, weld them up, bolt them in, and see what I've created. Now, I do have an auto transmission that I want to be putting in, so I also need to be aware of this area here with my whatever I do. So yeah, I can't finish the cab until probably that transmission is in. Yes! You ripper!
Yeah! We've got brakes, we've got brakes, we've got brakes. Wow! The end of the saga. Darren, we love you, we miss you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Darren.
so much for the outside eyes, because that's the push that Chris needed.
Oh yes, I was so defeated. It's one of the lowest moments of my life, funnily enough, but this is so much better. The truck runs terribly, but that can be tweaked a little bit in the carbs. I'm gonna throw that junk motor out anyway. This is where it should have been parked maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
It's okay. Brakes are done, now we get the visa and we are on the roll, baby.
And we have some tyres arriving tomorrow, finally.
It's happening!
It's all on. Ah, thank. Oh,
The
yes.
Scandinavian gods.
Yes.
The end of the saga.
This might sound so ridiculous being this happy over brakes, but far out. Talk about a useless vehicle if it can't brake. Oh, it locks wheels up hard, like she brakes. We're heavy, Oakley. Well, I think that deserves a cheers. Oh man, almost tastes like victory. The brakes aren't perfect. There's still more pedal travel than I would like. That could be an adjustment on the shoes because it was feeling a bit better before I went for the spin. So I guess it takes a bit for the mechanical parts of the shoes to actually stick properly because they're kind of like a half moon shape, right? And when you adjust them, they're not a perfect circle, but as the truck moves, they would end up becoming that perfect circle. So I think maybe that's what's happened here, and it's given me a little bit more pedal travel, but it still stops really well every time. Cheers guys, thanks for sticking with me on this one. That saga took a lot longer than expected. Who would have known that a brake system could cause so much pain? I'm sure some of you probably do know. I didn't realize it would be that difficult. Oof. Okay, time for me to chill out with the gang, finish this beer off and enjoy the serenity of knowing that I've finally sorted this. So that means we can book in for the inspection. I'm just a bit nervous about driving this on the road. The inspection's not real close apparently, the inspection centre. And it's kind of like, it's idling rough and then sometimes it loses power when you go between gears. So yeah, I think Ange will have to follow me in the Saab and I'll just drive and hope for the best and bring my tools along and maybe some starter fluid. And hopefully we'll get there. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Cheers. So I'm cleaning up the little hatch that's in the back now. So I've removed the old insulation, which was this stuff here, like a foam. And now I'm putting on Dynamat Extreme. I made sure there was no rust. I used the wire wheel on the drill and I have given it a fresh coat of green spray paint on the edges that'll be seen. But yeah, no rust at all. But yeah, it's a cool hatch that, and the rooftop like lifting thing we've got planned, which will come a bit further down the track, should finish roughly from about here back. So it still enables us to have this roof hatch, which is cool because it'll be a good way to get fresh air in, to get air out when we need to, and it needs to be insulated because it's kind of right above Oakley's head because he'll be sitting here. So yeah, just making sure it's all clean. Doesn't look like it's been leaking at all. I've removed the old seal which went around here. I'll definitely be replacing that. So another piece of Dynamat Extreme in here as the paint dries, and then I'll show you the next stage of Dynamat that goes over the top of it and why we're using that product. Okay, now the next product that I'm going to use on this roof hatch is called Dynacore. So this is Dynamat's new product. It's a thermoacoustic fiber. So not only does it absorb sound, but also a lot of heat as well. So it's a perfect place for this hatch right above Oakley's head. And this just sticks on similar to the Dynamat Extreme. You can see the fibers there. Comes in different thicknesses, and this is suitable for like a range of applications, so like your caravans, boats, under car hoods. even in your home, like in speaker cabinets and things like that, because it actually also absorbs vibration as well due to its properties. So I'm just going to cut that out, stick these here, and then I'll show you where I've also been putting this as well. We've got a few boxes of it to put around in the truck. This is kind of like the premium product, so we're putting it in the places that really do matter and paying really special attention to, you know, where they go.
Life is pretty crazy at the moment. Just a few days ago, Chris and I think hit one of the lowest low for a very long time, and we felt very defeated to the point where I was like, I want to sell the vehicle. We're just gonna go back to Australia. It was like really much the worst case scenario. But you know, just a few things that go in your favor, having some good news with the brakes, going back to the gym, knowing that things actually are not so bad, change of perspective, and I feel just so much better as well. I guess the weather helps a lot. So Oakley is still napping, so I went to the gym. I felt like I was escaping for the first time. It's such a strange feeling, but it felt so good touching a barbell, almost I think for the first time since I've given birth. So yeah, I'm just stoked and just so happy this morning. So I hope I can help to do some jobs with Chris, because I've got lots of energy and I'm feeling really, really good.
Good morning. So great news, we have a official booked date for when we're going to go in for our preliminary registration. So that is Friday the 3rd of May. So very cool. Now I've been working on a few things on the truck, as you can see, to try and make sure that we'll breeze through inspection as best we can. So I've taken out both headlights and I'm cleaning them up at the moment. They will be being replaced after inspection when we've changed to 12 volt. And there's a bunch of reasons why I'm changing to 12 volt, so I will go over that in time. And then there's these little side marker lights here. This one in pretty bad shape. But as far as I can tell, they don't make these anymore, and the replacements look very different and they're really expensive, like €250 or something like that. So I'm trying to fix these up and make sure that they're actually going to look okay once the truck is painted. One of the issues was, this is where the windscreen washer nozzles were. They were completely blocked up, and they had actually, I think, created back pressure and stopped the little motor working, which I'll show you as well. This guy here, which was screwed under, and that's just a little electric motor that spins, I suppose, a little bit like an impeller that you would get in like an outboard motor. So one was pulling water in, so pulling water in from this tank here and just pushing it straight out. So really simple, but I pulled it apart and cleaned it all up and put some contact fluid in there as well to make sure it's not going to die on me at the registration center. And then I'm going to replace the two nozzles, but it does work. So hopefully with two replacement nozzles from Tatanka, I can get that to do a nice spray pattern over the windscreen. Also going to replace the blades, of course. That's all really simple. So these are the lenses on the back, but this is a pretty full-on light. I'll show you. There's a bit going on in here. There's actually 5 bulbs. Same on this one here as well. So some of those are for the blackout convoy lighting, so the military spec version. Others are, you know, stop lights, indicator. Yeah, there's a lot going on in these lights. They're really cool. So, and I want to keep them if we can. So one thing that the registration might require is a license plate light, because the license plate will go here once we get it. So I'm getting a couple of replacement lenses of these from Tatanka. One of them will have a more legal street version, I guess, for the license plate, and the other one's just going to be the same, but it won't be all frosted up like that, so it'll look better. This one I've already replaced because it was broken. So far I'm thinking most stuff works. As far as I can tell, everything works apart from one light on the dash. When I go into left indicator, doesn't light on the dash, but the same light does work in right, so it's just a connection issue. So what I'm doing is painting up, that's the surround for the headlights, a few more things. These are these side markers. Just working on a few little things. And some of you will be pleased to know I have a new, brand spanking new hammer. So this is a panel beating hammer. We've got kind of a rounded flat edge on here and a finishing point on the other side, as well as one of these. So thank you so much to all of you who pitched in on the buy me a coffee or buy me a hammer, because it did mean that we could buy that one. And I'll get another one as well, but not from Build to Me. I'll buy a proper good hammer that I can use for the rest of the project. So I'm going to do some panel beating because there's just tons of places where the aluminium's been bent in. Some of the harder places to get to are going to be along here. The TGB's always had dents on here. It's really thin aluminium, and as soon as they hit branches and stuff like that, it does dent up. I don't know if you can tell, there's a big one here. But I'm going to get Ange inside with that piece of steel, and I'm going to be trying to bang parts of it out. I did manage to get up in here, and this was the worst dent we had on the truck. And I did manage to get that out just with my my hammer. That triggers quite a few of you. I've also fixed the door, so that wasn't shutting properly. Yeah, there's most stuff, once I put the seat back in, should pass inspection.
Who would have thought we would be living in an industrial area? This is so random. But yeah, one of the main positives of it, it's really quiet, especially at night time, on the weekend, so we're not bothered at all. I really enjoy that. And it's really close to the grocery, so I can often go with Oakley in the pram, and it's really nice to not have to take the car to go grocery shopping. Makes us get some fresh air, can see the birds, get a bit of sunshine. Yeah, no, that's one part of, I guess, being in one spot for a little bit longer, and the traveling that I enjoy. Just those little routine things, being able to go to the gym often, go groceries, walking distance. Yeah, the little things. Nothing really eventful grocery shopping, but there was one thing that I wanted to share, especially with our Australian audience, which we found with Chris very weird. They do stock here in Sweden the Bundaberg ginger beer, but I don't think they're quite aware that the Bundaberg ginger beer is non-alcoholic, because you can actually find it in the shops with the normal beer. Because yes, in Sweden they do sell beers in the actual supermarket. You don't have to go to your liquor store like in Australia. So yeah, it's just like the little things like that that is just so random. If you do want to buy alcohol, you have to go to a separate shop. So yeah, just a little difference between the two countries. But other than that, the prices, it's not too bad actually. Sweden, I thought it was going to be much worse, so that's good in that respect. I do miss the quality of the fruit and veg that Australia offers, especially the avocados. The one we get here, unfortunately, obviously they come from far away, Israel, Peru, and they're just no good. So yeah, I do miss the Australian avocados and mangoes. But that's right. When we come back to Australia, I can have my fix.
And save the day, and save the day. Nice job. Woo. She drives. She drives good now. I'll show you the problem. That is what our pre-filter looked like.
Jeez.
That's what it should have looked like. So yeah, that was starving us of fuel. I don't know anything about carbureted engines, but that was incredibly easy to resolve. There's two filters, one at the fuel tank, or just after the fuel tank. Then it goes through a mechanical fuel pump, which is really small, connected to the engine block. And then it goes into a filter king, which is also a fuel pressure regulator. So I took that off and had a look at it, and it was spotless. So at least this had really done its job. I'll double check what the new one looks like. But we've got a spare as well for Friday too, just in case on the drive it picks up something nasty in the fuel tank. But yeah, it seems fine. The fuel seems nice and clean. So drives really nice. It's actually got some herbs to it. It's got some pep in comparison to Bowser. I'm not used to it. Even without the power steering, it's not so bad. It's more off-roading would be really challenging without power steering. Like navigating rocks and stuff. Very minimal speed would be the hard part. When you've got speed, it's fine.
So it's exciting, just before the end of week 8. So good news, and I'm not sure Chris mentioned it already, but we are going away tomorrow. We have decided that Chris deserves a break. For sure, a celebratory break. So we're going 3 nights away, and we're coming back just 2 days before the inspection, do the final touches on the Volvo, and
yeah,
then
we'll get some parts from Tatanka, like the lenses and things like that.
hopefully pass the inspection. That would be...
It will.
Okay, amazing. So that's what's in the cards for week 9. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks guys, can't wait for the exciting stuff. Woo, 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 woo. Let's get the stand reach over and done with the boring stuff. Get it out of the way!
Goodbye!